Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, What's New with Summon and 360 and Entota Services. We'll take this time to review recent functionality, upcoming releases, and any other updates we might have. As I just mentioned, we love to answer questions, so please submit any questions you have, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. I am Brent Cook, the Director of Product Management for Summon. Today, I'm joined by Amy Pemble, who will be giving some information on Entota 360 services, and she's the Director of Product Management for those services. We have a variety of things on our agenda today. We'll first start off talking about Summon and some of the recent accomplishments we have there. I'll then do a deep dive into the November quarterly release, which is live right now in production, has a lot of great features in it. We'll do some highlights of work we've done in CDI this year. It's been a very busy year on the index. There's some great features that have come based on the work there as well. Then we'll hand it over to Amy for 360 and Entota Services and talk about the quarterly release for that. We'll take a moment to touch on some upcoming webinars and how you can get involved in the community. And as I mentioned earlier, we will gladly answer any questions you have at the end of the session. So it's been a busy year so far for Summon, with 3 quarterly releases completed and the 4th in process right now. The 4th started its preview environment on October 18th and will be live next Wednesday on November 1st. As always, for the months that we don't have quarterly releases, we do have maintenance releases, usually on the first Wednesday of all months. All other months, there is no preview environment for this. Much of that is usually back-end work or not user-facing. If there is, we'll let you know. And as you probably noticed recently, I've been trying to do release notes for these as well, as long as there's functionality in it that makes sense for release notes. So hopefully you've been seeing those in the listserv as well. So let's start off by diving into some of the recent improvements we've had for Summon since the beginning of this year. And as you can see from the list on the left, it's quite a long list. We've had a lot of good functionality put out there, including SAML for Save Searches. This was initially tested around Sierra, but this is a standard SAML implementation, so anyone should be able to leverage this if you'd like for Save Searches. What this does is add the ability to log into Save Searches using SAML authentication. In addition to both your Google login and your Microsoft login, as you can see from the screen grab there on the right-hand side. The big change around this, in addition to using your authentication, is the Save Searches is stored in a flat file. For Google and Microsoft, we use the social logins and the associated drive. So the Google Drive or G Drive and the Microsoft OneDrive is where we store the flat files for that. We did that initially so the user would have control over all their information and we wouldn't be storing any personally identifiable information. However, we heard you loud and clear that you want to be able to use your own, and that many campuses have policies against using social services like that or institutions. So this will be added as a GDR compliant, or has been added as a GDR compliant solution. It stores the Save Searches on the Summon servers, so it should meet all of your policies. And if you still like the MS OneDrive and Google Drive logins, you can use those too. So all 3 of those are now available for Save Searches. We also did some work on Google Analytics. Google Analytics 4 was added in July. It also included the addition of Tag Manager support, which Tag Manager is a component of Google Analytics 4. You don't have to use Tag Manager, but it is now available for use in Summon if you would like. Support for Legacy Analytics for Google ended July 1st, so if you have not changed that, then please take a look at your Google Analytics because it probably needs updating. Just last August, we added scopes for Summon searches. This allows you to set pre-filters for your search so that you can limit to a specific group versus searching a full catalog. We're able to complete scopes, prioritize display order when there are multiple scopes. You can see the example there on the right-hand side. There's a variety based on types of content as well as locations. So you can do a lot of different things. You can limit to local records. You can limit by content type, discipline, language, new records, and time period. If you wanted to focus in on a specific ISBN or ISSN, you can add or remove resources through that, and you can add library location. So all of these are ways that you can provide a little drop down there in the search box that allows your user to search a select set of content. So if you have, say, a specific library that has a focus or alumni or things like that, it's yours to do with what you would like. Configuring is very straightforward. For all of these features in the past webinars, I have gone over in great detail some of the ways to configure them. So if you want to see a lot more detail on this and other features, you can reference back to the last What's New in Summon quarterly webinar. For scopes, overall, you just want to go in the admin console under settings and search scopes. The existings will be at the top. You can edit them, enable them, disable them, and decide the order there. At the bottom, there's a button to create a new search scope. You click that, and that takes you into a form very similar to your advanced search form. You fill out what you'd like. You give the search scope a name, which is what will be displayed in the user interface. And then you hit save, and that will create that new scope. But I'll show some examples of improvements of how we did to the display on that in just a minute. We also did some work on the quick look pane, the layout there. This was a NERS feature. I'll be talking about NERS a lot today. If you're not familiar with it, it's the New Enhancement Request System, or NERS. That is the voting system for Igloo and Aluna, where you get to contribute items to the roadmap each year. We just completed voting for that, which is really exciting. We take the ideas from the idea exchange, take the ones that are appropriate and put them into the voting, and then the results end up on the roadmap for next year. So the voting is completed, and we're now doing some sizing, and we'll present what the final ones are there in the next couple of months. We've also added the ability to include matches in full text search suggestions. This is another one that came via the idea exchange and was voted on and put onto the roadmap through the NERS process. If you have the include matches in full text facet enabled in your interface, and the user does not have that applied, and they get a blank search, a zero search result page like the one on the right, options will appear automatically for them to change their search, and now that will include matches in full text. So it's contextual. It will know if they haven't applied it. It will know if it's an available option for them, and then it will display that if that's something that would make sense. And as I mentioned, this will only appear if you have full text, which if you see the little red arrow down there at the bottom of those facets, only if that include matches in full text facet is enabled in your user interface. If you want to enable that or disable that, you can go into the admin console under settings and facets and adjust that, or excuse me, refine your search and adjust that and turn it on or off if you'd like. So another thing that came out recently was the ability to customize elements in the right-hand pane. In the past, you were only able to organize things in a certain way. You would be able to say if Topic Explorer was at the top or the bottom. You'd also be able to either display Database Finder as a search box or as 10 results coming back, as you can see there on the right-hand side example. With this feature, which again was brought to us by NERS, allows you to determine the order display for Database Finder, custom panels, and Topic Explorer, and gives you more flexibility with that Database Finder widget so that you can configure it to be a little bit better than, or meet your environment in a better way. And then the last thing I want to touch on recent features, this is a personal favorite of mine, is the warning to save changes in the admin console. In the past, if you made some changes, forgot to click the save button and navigate it away, you would just lose your changes and not realize you did something. Now you'll get a warning that looks like that on the right-hand side, and then you can cancel to go back and save if you'd like, or leave if you meant to do that anyway. So next we'll talk about what's in the November release. A lot of improvements there. A lot of it, about half of it is going to take some adjustments after the fact. I'll go through and give you a lot of great details on what you can see in the preview now and what you can expect once it's in production. One thing I want to call note out to, though, is please check your custom JavaScript in the preview environment. We made some changes in the user interface on the back end on some of the components that basically serve up the user interface. So we don't think, and we've done testing to ensure that we don't disturb your custom JavaScript. However, because there's a lot of different ways that you implement it, we couldn't confirm everything. So take some time right now in the preview environment to check that JavaScript, please. So one of the features that you're getting as part of the release right now, and again, it's a NERS feature, is the ability to match language settings from Summon with 360 Link. In the past, that language parameter was not passed over to 360 Link, so you could go from the Summon search results in one language and then end up in content that's in another language. That language parameter should be passed and used now to maintain that state. This is a CDI change that I'm really excited to talk about. We've now added normalized subject headings as an option for your subject terms in faceting and other components of Summon. All English language subject headings in CDI have been mapped and deduped against the Library of Congress subject headings and MESH, or the NIH medical subject headings. So for English languages, that normalization has happened. So institutions can now use these headings for their subject facets in place of the current ones. The current ones are a combination of those Library of Congress headings, MESH, your local subject terms, and a variety of other inputs. So now if you'd like, and that can create some noise and some values in that subject terms facets that may not be appropriate for your institution. So now if you'd like, you can switch to using just normalized subjects for that. So how to turn on that normalized CDI subjects, you'll find the configuration under the admin console, under settings and subject terms. When you switch it from custom, the default to custom, and then you turn to on and hit save, within 5 minutes that will be activated. A few things to note about the use of those normalized CDI subject headings is that they will replace your current subject terms facet. So you can have one or the other. You turn on the normalized subject headings, you get the new subject terms. You turn on the others. Or if you don't turn them on, then you'll get to maintain those same facets you use currently. Any subject headings that could not be mapped, including all non-English subjects, are still available for display and search when the new normalized subject headings are in use. So if you do turn on the new normalized subject headings, they'll still appear in display for quick look and the results, and you can still search on them and have results returned based off of that. So again, you can choose between maintaining subject headings as they are today or replace them with the normalized subject headings, and the main change there will just be in the facets. The data will still be in there and still be used for search and display. We also made an update to Scopes, as I mentioned earlier. If you haven't gone out and tried Scopes, please go into the preview environment and check it out. There's some great instructions in the last webinar on how to set it up. We've gotten some good feedback from you. Based on that feedback, we've updated how the scopes are represented in the UI. Any facets or elements that are applied are now displayed. As you can see there, the name of the scope you're using appears at the top. And in addition, we've made it so that when you change the scope, so if you were to clear a parameter or something like that, you get that you're about to leave dialog box that's on the right-hand side there and let you know that you're changing the scope. Next, I want to talk a little bit about 5xx notes fields and Summon. This has been a top item on the ID Exchange for a while. Last year, the user community, decided this was important enough to be at the very top of the NERS voting and was critical for inclusion. We're excited to add it. It will allow the display of both the label and the value in the field results. If the field's left blank or there's no label there, it wouldn't be displayed, so it expands or collapses gracefully based on the number of 5xx fields that you have there. As you can see them on the bottom right-hand side there in that screen grab. Something to know about the 5xx notes fields in Summon. This is not something you can see in preview right now, unfortunately. It does require mapping and content processing, so you will need implementation assistance by Ex Libris. We will send instructions for requesting this change after the release. So as part of the release notes, I will post this and then you can put in your request. We don't know what the demand is going to be for this. It's a fairly straightforward mapping. It's similar to doing a new full load. So the time for implementation will depend on the request volumes we get, and we're not sure what to expect with that. So we will let you know when you submit your case how long it's going to take. But it should be fairly quickly and will require that processing of content. And we look forward to being able to do that after the release. Another CDI change I want to call out is on Unpaywall. It's now available as a collection. In the past, when we first added Unpaywall, we did it as an augmentation. What that means is the information is added to the record after the search is complete. So any open access faceting, any open access indicators or labeling and faceting all are not available when you do things through that augmentation, right? Because the Unpaywall hasn't been added during the search. There's no way to say if that's the only open access record associated with that content to mark that result as open access. So having it be a collection The positive of that was that we were able to get it in quickly, and it's a fast responsive system. The drawback was you can't have a facet, and it does affect the labeling and faceting around the open access content. So now when those records are merged from the collection on paywall, they will be marked as open access and have an open access option, and that link will be provided as well. So the functionality for the end user won't change so much, other than now unpaywall will show up as a option under your database or collections facet, and you'll be able to facet and have those unpaywall links identified as open access links. Indexed unpaywall links will be returned by CDI like regular IEDL links. Will be prioritized using the standard linking logic there. Those link to PDF links elements will still appear in the sum and search results. Quick links will appear first, and then the link to PDF will appear after that, and then whatever priority, or excuse me, the unpaywall link will appear after that, and then whatever other priority you have. Once this is another one that you can't see in preview right now. Once we're in production, the unpaywall configuration you have will no longer be valid, and you'll need to go in and select unpaywall as a collection if you want to continue to use unpaywall in your instance of Summit. I will send a reminder about that and update on how to do that, but you add it the same way you do any other collection in Summit. And then the final big feature for the November release is the ability to prevent ebook and computer file records from merging. Computer files are not always, and in fact, most cases are not ebooks, but they do end up getting merged sometimes with ebook records. We're putting in logic to prevent this because this is a change of a content type. It will take some content processing in order for this to happen. And so it will start at the beginning of November and we'll go forward. But this prevention of computer files merging with any other content types will be in place in the next few months as that content is processed. Couple more things I want to touch on. I always like to talk about accessibility because it's such an important part of the product. We test for accessibility on a regular basis. Any feedback you give us or our patrons give us or anything we identify that's an accessibility issue, we put those at the top of the list for things to be fixed or addressed. And each year we do an evaluation of the system holistically. That's coming up here in the next few months. We'll do that again. And anything that we identify there, we'll add into the queue for development as part of the roadmap. This is a standard process for us, and we want to make sure that we stay on top of things because browsers and hardware and screen readers and various software components that are assistive devices change on a regular basis. It's something that we always have to be vigilant on, and we're happy to keep on top of as best we can. We also continue to work on analytics. One of the big improvements that we're looking forward to in 2024, we're going to do some initial testing in a pilot program, and then we will expand the use of Mixpanel, which if you were at Igloo or Luna, talks about, it's the ability to track user activities within the user interface. So we'll be able to tell you more when we get closer to 2024, but that should be rolling out sometime in the next year or so as well. So we are currently in the process of planning for the roadmap for 2022. Excuse me, 2024. Excuse me, I lost a couple of years there. We will have the roadmap for that finalized in the next few months. A few things that are on the top of the list to be done is to finish the LTI support work that we began this year, to improve the search widget builder, add in the ability to have the scopes there and autocomplete and a variety of other updates that are due for that. The user interface analytics I just mentioned, plus all the great NERS candidates you voted for. And again, we will have those details and official features in a roadmap webinar coming up in the next few months. So next, I want to talk a little bit about some of the planned and completed updates for CDI. I've already talked about a couple of them, but as you can see from the list here on the left-hand side, we've got a lot we've been doing on the index this year. First off, we've reduced CDI rights processing from around 48 to 72 hours on average to 24 to 30 hours on average. We continue to work on data quality. We've done some work to improve consistency of language and publication date fields, work to better identify book reviews. And as I mentioned, we've improved open access handling with the addition of unpaywall as a collection just recently. longer term projects that are coming out. Addition of secondary resource types for CDI. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We've been working on author names and connecting those to ORCIDs and possibly other IDs and normalizing those names. And as I mentioned just now, we've done that keyword and normalized subject work as well. So secondary resource types for CDI is a new component to CDI, and you'll see some of it in your records. A few years ago, we did a little bit of work around this, adding things like that primary source label that you can see on the right-hand side that has a red box around it. Secondary content types provide specific types of information for a record. They don't replace the record's primary content types. They should add value. Their purpose is to display additional information about the record or item in the brief display and on quick look, and to allow filters or search on these secondary content types as part of secondary content type faceting. So there are two types of secondary resource types. There's the one on the first page that I just showed you, the primary resource, which is a type that falls into the regular category. These display as indicators in the brief display of a record in the search result in quick look. So those will be icons that you can see like the one I just showed you. There's also warnings, like the one you can see on the right-hand side. Those are a little bit more bold because they usually display important information like a retraction or things like that. So it's critical to get those out there. The types of secondary resource content types that we have, there are a variety out there. There is review article, primary source, preprint, retracted publication, retraction notion, publication with addendum, publication with corrigendum. All those can be found in the Knowledge Center. If you go there and you search under the summon section under secondary content types, I'm also putting a link in the chat. Excuse me. It talks about secondary resource content types. It will tell you the definitions of these that I've listed here on the left, details on the types planned for future releases. And if you do the search I mentioned, you can figure out, I think it has a link on that page I sent you as well, on how to do the configuration of the facet. The facet's straightforward. You just go into the facet pane under the admin console, under settings, facet, and you'll see the secondary content types tile there. And just drag and drop it to activate it. We also continue to work on search and ranking improvements. Beginning of this year, we did some work on a known item search where users paste an entire citation into the search box. That's a common way to search for things. We are using this AI tool. Basically, we're using machine learning to identify that it's a citation, pull out the appropriate pieces from the citation, and then match those up to the various fields so that we can hopefully get that known item at the very top of your results. We've also added support for Malingo, which is a Hebrew search plugin for CDI, and we continue to work on search and ranking, as always, based on your feedback. I also want to call out quick links. If you haven't activated this yet, I certainly encourage you to. I'm posting a link to how to activate quick links in Summon if you haven't. Basically, this is if you don't know about it, quick links is a program that provides a direct link to the full text, either as a PDF or HTML. We have 39 supported providers, over 16,000 collections. And the reason you want to activate this is the linking success rate is 99%. So this supplements any other products like this you might have. It supplements the linking that you currently get within Summon. And again, it's just a way to get a better, more accurate, and more likely successful link to your end user. And that wraps up the features for the simple index. Now I'm going to hand it over to Amy to talk a little bit about 360 in total.
All right, thanks, Brent. You guys got some really great stuff going on with Summon and CDI. Happy to hear about it. I'm going to provide some highlights about our final release of 2023 for 360 and Intota. And you'll be able to see here, and I'll point out along the way, how we're building on some of the NERS projects that we started earlier in the year. Some of the highlights include open access indicators in management reports, the ability to log into Summon usage statistics from Intota, some new 360 linkers, sushi harvesting improvements, and Ulrich's Web UI enhancements. And I know I don't generally talk about Ulrich's Web enhancements in our webinars, but since my team is responsible for maintaining and improving and enhancing both Elric's Web and USAS, I just wanted to give some visibility to the fact that we do spend our time on that. Next, please. So the open access indicators and management reports is coming from an earlier NERS improvement that we did with Q3. And that was supplying open access indicators at both the database details level and the titles details level in both Client Center and in Toda. So that was the top vote getter for 316 in Toda last year. And when talking to the product working group, someone immediately said, a couple of people immediately said, hey, you know what? I want to see that information in management reports too. It's great to have it in the application, but it would be extra valuable if we could see it in the reports that we produce and analyze. So what we have done is taken that authoritative data that we're getting from Ulrich's Web, and we included it in 3 reports, the database details report, tracked resources, and tracked e-journals. And in the database details report, you're going to see an open access percentage, which will mimic exactly what you see in either the Client Center or the Entoda application. And then in the tracked resources and tracked e-journals report, you're going to see a yes or no flag in OA column that will tell you, up or down whether the title is open access according to Ulrich's Web. Next, please. This is coming from a NERS project that we began earlier this year. I believe it was also Q3. And so this is an extension. What we released in Q3 was the ability to allow Client Center users to authenticate into summon usage statistics. And so now we have extended that ability to Entoda. So in order to configure this, the account permission summon usage statistics needs to be set to view edit. And you can see that screenshot where I highlighted that particular permission. Once that's turned on for a user account, the link to summon usage statistics will appear in the administrative section on the Entoda homepage. Next, please. A couple of other projects that really are evergreen things that we do every quarter and across a couple of different teams are 360 linkers and sushi harvesting improvements. So for 360 link, we have a couple of new Java linkers, which are New York Review and Duke University Press. And making this distinction between Java and XML linkers, because 2 separate teams maintain them. For Java linkers, specifically for these 2 providers, my development team actually has to work on those and deploy those in the code. Whereas the XML linkers, which are much more common and more commonly used by providers, are maintained by our linkers team. And that's why I put that italicized bullet there, just to ensure you that we have monthly releases of linkers that you may not even realize are being deployed. So just to be sure that we have kind of a 2-pronged approach for maintaining our linkers. For sushi harvesting improvements, we did some work for the providers listed here: American Society for Cell Biology, American College of Physicians, and Beagle House. I hope I'm producing that right. Again, these are ongoing projects that we generally have to address in order to keep things running smoothly and consistently. Next, please. Again, so we have been doing a lot of work on Ulrich's Web and USAS applications. They really needed a facelift. We needed to address some accessibility issues. And so what we've updated are some mark titles and save lists and deletion capabilities in my Ulrichs. And then some new USAS pages were upgraded to our UI framework. Again, this is going to result in better accessibility compliance and really just a smoother and more modern user experience in those applications. Next, please. So as Brent said, we are working on our roadmaps for next year. What we're looking at a very high level for 2024 is deploying auto holdings with Springer. We are working with them. We've got a couple contacts there. We're exchanging how-tos and test environments, and getting those communications back and forth. We have every reason to expect, and we believe that it will work very similarly to Taylor and Francis auto holdings. So hopefully those of you who subscribe to Taylor and Francis ebooks have tried that and found it to be successful. And the same is going to be true for Springer. And we are also looking at support implementing IPv6 support. That's Internet Protocol version 6 support. Currently, our applications support 4 and 5, and 4 is very outdated. They aren't even able to create new or distribute IPv4 numbers at this point. So that's just another project that we need to have in order to maintain security and function well across web applications. NERS projects, we're looking forward to seeing what gets some votes and how we can implement and make your lives a little easier across Client Center and in TOTA. And even if something isn't officially voted on, as you've seen throughout the year, we're able to take some of those things that are listed in Ideas Exchange, in particular if they're already in an area in which we're working, or if it's something that we can knock off in a matter of 1 or 2 sprints. We're always happy to do that, and just see your great ideas and what you need and where we can slot those things in. Our 360 KB auto normalization project has been ongoing. We actually did do a lot of infrastructure work for this current release that you will not be able to see right now. We are working hand in hand with the metadata librarians in order to ensure that we are able to reconcile multiple records into a single record, thereby negating the need for you to open cases with support and say, hey, these are actually the same record. Please, combine the identifiers into a single record. So again, that's ongoing. We're working with the metadata librarians to make sure that's accurate, as I'm sure anyone who's done any cataloging knows. We're concerned about maintaining the integrity of the metadata across records and making sure we do it right. And that's what I wanted to share. Back to you, Brent.
So next, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities you have to get engaged and connect with the larger community. We've got some upcoming Luna Learns webinars in the next few weeks or a few months, and then a library journal webinar on November 2nd. For those Luna Learns, those continue in the next few months, as I mentioned. Analytics is today, actually, in a few hours. If you haven't signed up, please do. You can see the URL there at the bottom of the screen. The time is at 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Topics for that would include publishing without perishing, making the most of Alma publishing, SpringShare integration with Ex Libris tools, and simplify your batch cataloging with Alma to mark edit integration. Another one coming up on November 1st, that's a week from today, metadata management and government documents. That includes topics such as archive, data enrichment and PIN, resolving mixed format government document records in Alma Network Zone, and rectify e-resource records using normalization indication rules, OpenRefine, and Python scripts. So that's coming up in a week. And then the week after that is acquisitions and discovery. Again, starts at 1 o'clock Eastern. Topics include things like templates, lists, and other great hits. Top 5 Rialto features to level up your collective development. Rialto's everywhere. Integrations for streamlining work. And not just another book display. Enhancing browsability with Primo collections is at the Fondren library. So if you'd like to see some of what some of your colleagues are doing with other Ex Libris tools or with Discovery, this is a great way to get in there and find out about that. And then on November 2nd, we have a library journal webinar coming up. titled Unlocking Connections, How Linked Open Data Benefits Libraries. Again, that's on Thursday, November 2nd. That's 11 a.m. New York time, 3 o'clock p.m. London time. And the topics are collaborating with the community, bringing linked open data into libraries, and creating a metadata ecosystem of global discoverability and comprehensive interoperability. And there's that URL. And again, we'll make these available after the webinar as well. And we'll make the recording and the PDF of the various slides available, so you'll be able to get all of this information. And that brings us to the end of our prepared slides. We've got a couple of questions in the Q&A tool. If you have any or any come up as we're chatting here, please feel free to submit them and we'll take a look and we'll answer them as best we can. If we don't have the answer, we'll follow up with you when we post the slides and the recording. So the first question is, do we have documentation about the GDPR compliance of the SAML logged in for saved searches? That's a great question. While Amy was talking, I quickly tried to pull up a link to some documentation there and was not able to find it. I'll make sure that that's available though and let you know what we do have around documentation around GDPR compliance. Next question. When will Summon usage stats access improvements be available for Summon over Alma sites? That's the link so that you don't have to give greater admin controls to someone to be able to get to the OAS data, the analytics data within the Summon admin console. I do not have a specific date for that. We need to make the change in Alma for that link. And I am working with the team right now to get that scheduled. But thank you for the reminder, and I will make sure we get that as quickly as possible. So the next question is, have there been any updates to scopes regarding translations, i.e. the ability to allow title of scopes to be translated when libraries have multiple languages, instances of Summon? That is still on the list of things to be done for scopes. That hasn't been done yet. This is it's a little bit more challenging than our usual translations that we do because it's a dynamic list that you create, and we've been trying to figure out a good, graceful way to do that doesn't slow down display in the user interface. And then how we create the tool to manage that in the back end in the admin console. So the answer to that one, unfortunately, is no, we don't have that done yet, but we are looking into how we can make that change. Thanks for the reminder. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we've got nothing in the queue right now. So Amy, if you want to start us off with some wrapping up comments, and we'll see if any more come in.
Yeah, as usual, we appreciate very much that you took time out of your day to join us and that you're interested and excited in hearing what's coming for Summon in 360 and in TOTA. Keep submitting your ideas to the Idea Exchange and voting and letting us know how we can improve products for you. Thanks for being great customers and have a fantastic rest of your day.
And I'll echo that. I really appreciate the time that you put into Summon and the product. The products are successful because of your input. So thank you so much. And we really appreciate you taking the time. And we will make sure to send out the recording and links afterwards, as we said. So thanks again and have a good day.